Welcome to the Recruitment Founders Podcast, the place to kickstart your journey to running a successful recruitment business. In each episode, you'll get knowledge, tips, and real-life stories to help you take your business from startup to whatever you want it to be. At Recruitment Founders Club, we'll show you how to follow a proven path to success, tap into a network of top-notch mentors, and join a community that thrives on collaboration and shared wins. You run the business, and we make sure you succeed.
There you are again, mate. Another episode of the pod.
Yeah. Big one, this one, isn't it?
Well, I think, in terms of what you've got to bring to today, I think it's going to be a really strong episode.
Hot topic.
Really hot topic. I'm here as a learner and a listener as well, thinking about it in my own business. Today we're going to be talking about the US recruitment market. We've certainly, through RFC, had a lot of inquiries about the US and whatnot through the strength of your business in that arena. I know you've been on a few podcasts and you get a lot of inquiries about that. So really looking to you here. Why this topic and why now?
Yeah. Well, you say why now? People have been banging on about the US for probably about 5 years plus now.
Yeah.
In terms of should they migrate their business there?
Yeah.
And start operating on the other side of the pond rather than the UK. And I think, quite rightly so, it is a hot topic. And there's a lot of interest around it. In the simplest form, it's a bigger market.
Okay, yeah.
Right? So
based on population, economy.
Population, the population of people, the population of recruitment businesses. Okay. It's just chalk and cheese. Okay. So I think that's one of the reasons people see it as being the biggest market globally, which it is.
Yeah.
And everybody speaks English.
Yeah.
Right? So there's no language barrier there. I think the time zones can work for people. But yeah, we should get into a lot of the reason as to why it's appealing.
Yeah.
And then we'll probably cover maybe some of the how as well.
Yeah.
We can talk about barriers. I mean, quite quickly, no, there aren't really any barriers, but, we can have a little chat about that. But I think we should be considering, for anybody that's thinking about, do I want to carry on recruiting in the UK? Because that's part of the problem, isn't it? The UK market. You're seeing it in your business.
Yeah, and I'm seeing it in every other business that I speak to, with whether they're consultants, billing managers, or owners. Everybody in the UK is feeling the pinch in various forms. And don't get me wrong, there's pockets where people are having successes, but it's normally led by one or two clients rather than a macro market that's really flying. I think most markets are quite suppressed at the minute.
But whether the UK is considered a buoyant market or a market that's kind of shrinking or a difficult market, the fundamental issues with the UK remain.
Yeah,
it's saturated.
Yeah, from a recruiter perspective.
From a recruitment perspective, it's the most mature recruitment market globally. It's cutthroat. Everybody's stabbing everyone in the back. To get anywhere near 20, this is what I'm hearing now. I haven't recruited in the UK for some time now, but to get anywhere near a 20% margin on a permanent fee, you're having to fight really hard for that. It's more, I think, I don't know what the averages are. Any idea? It's probably more closer to 15% than it is to 20%.
I think, obviously I work in retained search, it's slightly different fee structure and so on. But, speaking to mutual contacts that we've got, unless you really are in a very niche field that's at the upper echelons and potentially search led, seems to be a really, race,
and that's
the bottom on rates.
And that's the majority of the population, right? Exec search, it's a small percentage, right? Isn't it?
Yeah, no, agreed. And I was ahead of doing this episode, I was looking at the figures, and it's like circa 350 million population versus 70 million.
Yeah.
And yet there's
half the recruiters.
Half the amount of recruiters.
We don't know the exact numbers, but I think it's there or thereabouts, yeah.
Yeah. Well, if your favourite AI tool tells you it's right, it's got to be right, hasn't it? So tell us a little bit about your business then, because I think that would be a real good grounding for the listeners.
And maybe kind of what led me to choosing the US market. Yeah, cool. And I think, my story is really relevant because I really believe that if I can do it, and I have done it with some success, obviously a lot of failure along the way, with it being the recruitment market, but if I could do it with the circumstances that I was faced with, I think most other people that have got some recruitment experience could do it probably as well, if not much better than me. I left my last company after nearly 18 years, but for the last 13 years of that, I hadn't been on the tools. I was quite far from the front line.
Yeah. I remember this. You hadn't done a deal.
Yeah, it was between, I haven't pinpointed it, but I think it was between about 10 and 13 years. So I was managing through layers. And I got wheeled into maybe negotiate some terms now and again, or
difficult offer or something.
Yeah, or tricky client, come and meet this client with me. And okay, that kept me quite close. But in terms of actually pulling a job, doing a search, finding some candidates, managing that interview process, everything that goes with it, I hadn't done it for years. So when I exited and made a quick decision to set up my own business, obviously that was like the thought process of, right, I'm going to be back on the front line now. I'm going to be back on the tools. It was quite daunting, but it was also really exciting as well, because I'd fallen out of love with recruitment a little bit. I think when you're off away from the coal face and you're just dealing with all the crap and you're not closing a deal and getting that buzz from it, or booking an interview, or finding somebody their perfect job, you can lose the love for it a little bit. And I had done that. So I'm thankful that I did get back on the tools. But I didn't want to recruit in the UK. Even though I hadn't recruited myself directly, I just heard and I saw firsthand how my staff were getting treated, how they get spoken to by clients, internal recruiters, candidates. It's just, for me, the UK is a market that lacks respect for the recruitment industry. And okay, some of that is justified. It's an unregulated industry sector. Anybody can dive in to it, and they do. And they do that with not the best intention at heart, just to make quick money. And I think it does mean that I think a large portion of the recruitment sector doesn't provide a good service. They don't provide a good customer experience. So maybe quite rightly so, you don't get treated with respect.
I mean, I think it's a bit of a doom loop almost, isn't it?
Yeah. You want to be treated better, but then the rest...
And the worse you get treated, the less motivated a lot of people are to provide a good service. And it just goes
cycle
round
of
and
doom.
round and
Absolutely,
round.
you're absolutely right. So I'm setting up Aniston Green at 46 years old, and I'm thinking, do I really want a 22-year-old internal recruiter talking to me like I'm something that they've trodden in? I'm like, no, I don't want that. So anyway, what led me to think about the US market? I had a chap, you obviously know him, we won't mention his name, but he worked for me.
Yeah.
And he was a bit of a rogue trader. He used to work the US market when he wasn't supposed to, because, it was all territory based, wasn't it? Postcode based. And then you've got to stick to your little patch. But anyway, he recruited in the US for me for a few years, and he's banging in like 30, 40 grand deals. But he's doing it in a way where he's just building these relationships and people respect him. And he's got this control over the process. He's doing retainers and stuff like that. And I thought, that seems really different to, what I'm seeing with the rest of my consultants. So that was it. That was enough evidence for me to say, right, I'm going to work the US market. And that's how it started.
Okay. And in terms of, looking at the differences, so you've talked about respect is a big one.
And that's the main one.
But what are the differences that you've found between the two?
Okay, so check this out. This is why it's such an attractive market. Higher fees. Okay, clients will pay rate card. Very rarely do I have to negotiate on that. So they'll pay 25%. They'll pay 30% for a standard perm placement. Doesn't even have to be exec. They expect to pay because it's an industry sector that's treated with respect.
Yeah, they value the service.
They value the service.
So
there's providing you're actually delivering a good service, they expect to pay handsomely for it.
Yeah.
So, and we all know this. It's widely known that they pay higher salaries. The packages are bigger, so you're getting a higher margin of a higher salary.
Yeah.
No counter offers. I don't think I've ever had anybody counter offered in 5 years. Think about that. Think about all the issues over the years when you've managed people and you get an offer in the UK and you just know they're going to get counter offer, don't you?
Yeah.
I mean,
well, you're managing it. The best recruiters are managing it before a candidate's even got an interview.
Yeah.
that was something I, have always done myself. It's something when I was managing, and I still am, what I talk to my team about. You've got to be talking about the potential of a counter offer.
The first conversation with the candidate.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because you're also getting some feedback on that, and you're helping manage the process. And the best recruiters, we've had it over the years. Oh, they get lucky. They work in a great market. It's lucky. That's the bit that comes with it. The best recruiters are in the most control of the most part of the process.
Yeah.
More of the time.
Yeah.
And it's mad to hear that that's a market where you don't really come up against that. Why is that?
Well, you've seen the movies, right? When somebody goes into the office and they get told their face doesn't fit anymore, and then 2 minutes later they got the box with their plant in it, right?
Yeah.
That's the reality in the US. So there's something it's called, and it's quite antiquated, but a lot of the states still run with it. It's called at will.
Okay.
It's a method of contracting and employing somebody. It's the at will. I don't know if it's called anything extended on that, but it's known as at will. So I think 40 odd states run this at will. So what it means is that it doesn't matter what position you're in, CEO, middle manager, whatever, you can walk into work one day and say to your boss, I'm off, see ya. And you can start work with their direct competitor the next day. Maybe
no notice period.
No notice period. But it works the other way around as well. So you could go in as a CEO and the board pull you in and say, right, your face doesn't fit anymore, see you later. And you got your cardboard box, you're off.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, in reality, most states will have at least a 2 week.
Yeah.
But it's still 2 weeks. So you're not getting counter offered.
And you've often not got 3-6 month notice periods, and
so you could be the best recruiter in the UK at managing counter offers and talking about that with the candidate from the very first conversation. And you've drilled it into them. But then if they're working their notice period and it's a 3-month notice or a 6-month notice, their employer's in their ear chipping away at them. And as a recruiter, you've got no visibility of that. You all know this. I've had candidates. Well, some of my team's candidates in my previous job getting counter offered like 3 or 4 times on their notice period.
Yeah.
And the third or fourth one gets them.
Yeah, just chipping away.
It just, in the end, they just chip away and they get them. And how painful is that, man?
Yeah, it's...
how painful is that?
Fortunately, in the last probably 10 years, I've not had that many instances. But,
but you remember the pain. You remember the pain.
Stings because it's a deal done, isn't it? You've put all that work in.
Yeah.
Closed the deal.
Yeah. Consolidated the shit out of it. You're speaking to your candidate every week.
You've probably gone home and had a beer or two or a glass of wine, whatever, and celebrated.
Spent your commission.
A lot of people are doing that.
If you've been through that before, probably not.
And then you get hit with that. But And in terms of, another question, in terms of entering the market then, there's got to be, it's got to be a barrier to entry, surely.
No, there isn't. Let me give you one more plus point. In fact, I'll give you 2 more plus points before we go on to that. We've talked about at will, higher salary, higher package, higher margin. If you're working a role in my market, chief commercial officer, and let's say that salary is 300k base, and let's say the OTE is 600. You can invoice on 600 instead of 300. Now, you'll know we used to have this in our terms in the UK. How often did you enforce that when you were doing sales?
Very few.
Yeah, you might try it.
I tried it every time.
What a long sunny. You go, all right, I'll scratch that off. But in the US, and I remember, and this is mad, my first placement, it was a marketing VP. And I invoiced the client, and this is another thing, I invoice when the offer is accepted, not when they start work, which doesn't really matter in the US because they're starting work fast, but a verbal acceptance, they will accept an invoice at that point. So I've placed this marketing VP, and it was a big salary anyway, and I've invoiced them on the salary, and the head of HR has come back to me and said, you've forgotten to factor in the bonus, which obviously isn't guaranteed. And I was like, okay, so readjusted it and sent it out for probably another 50% on top of that. How mad's that?
But it also demonstrates, for getting the extra fee on that, you've just talked about being treated with respect.
Yeah.
That's the integrity of that market.
Yeah.
So, they expect to pay a certain level for a certain service because they value it.
Exactly. But even just that, considering that one isolated market, compare that to the UK market, it's chalk and cheese, isn't it?
Oh yeah, 100%.
So that's why, you're getting bigger fees, you're doing quicker deals, you're getting money in your bank quicker, which is a small business owner.
Do you get paid on time as well?
Yes, sometimes like early.
Okay.
I've had one client.
The dream.
I had one client that shafted me. You know about this story. We won't get into it, but it took me 6 months to get me money out of them. Yeah, but that was a one-off, and they weren't a US based. They weren't a US corporate.
Whereas you know my business, right? I mean, I'm pretty much exclusively in the UK, and I'm pretty much exclusively delayed on getting paid. Yeah, every time.
You're dealing with the big dogs, though, aren't you?
But
they just wrap you up in.
Yeah, but should surely your big businesses are liquid and should pay the suppliers.
You think so?
The UK is a real challenge. I've got a few contractors. I am emailing a week out before those invoices are due. Yeah, because I'm already starting to calculate cash flow differential between what I need to pay out versus what I'm going to get paid. It's a real, on my perms. I'm sat here today. I'm going home this afternoon. I've got 3 emails to send out chasing payment that he's already.
You don't want to be doing that either, do you?
But it's. I think until we've talked about this subject, you can probably see my cogs turning out. I hadn't realised just how much of a factor that is in my monthly management of my business. Yeah, chasing invoices. Yeah, and these are invoices that are in a system in big businesses that have been approved. To hear that you're not having to do any of that. Or extremely
well. Okay. Let me just be clear. I've purposely chosen to supply a startup market in the US, so I'm not working with the larger corporations that you're dealing with in the UK. Okay. If I was, it might be a different story because I get it. These bigger companies, okay, they've got loads of dough in the bank, but whoever's managing their kind of accounts and finances and transactions, they're told, aren't they, keep the money in the bank as long as you possibly can. Yeah, I get it. But it's not fair on the small business owner, but it's just reality, isn't it? That might be the same in the US. I can't comment on that. I'm dealing with startups, and obviously they respect the position that I'm in because they're in that position themselves. How tight cash flow is, runway, burn rate, all that sort of thing. So it's not something I ever have to talk about, but they just have the respect to kind of pay you on time, and if not a couple of days early. So it's great. So look, barriers, honestly, okay, time difference. So you've got West Coast is 8 hours behind, East Coast is 5 hours behind. So you've got 4 time zones in the US: Pacific, Mountain Time, Central, Eastern. So so the closest you're going to get is Eastern, so New York and up and down, which is a 5 hour difference. So if you want to work UK hours for whatever reason, lifestyle, family, that can be quite challenging. It could be perceived as being quite challenging. Yeah. It works really well for me.
They also start work crazy early because one of my good friends, they live in Cleveland, so I think they're an extra hour beyond Eastern. So they're 6 behind.
Cleveland, Ohio. Yeah. That's Eastern time.
Yeah, is that Eastern time? Mate, I'm, some mornings he's messaging me. I've got a WhatsApp message off him, and I'm only just back from taking the kids to school. Nuts. And he's up and he's in the office,
Yeah, and it's a good point. So you don't, the perception might be that you've got to do meetings like late into your evening. You don't. It's rare. Okay. We talked about it on the way over. I've got one at 8 o'clock tonight.
Yeah, you do a few of them, don't you? But you're not sat up at 10, 11 o'clock.
One a week, one a fortnight. Yeah. Because if you take it to the extreme, people on Pacific time, say in California, they're 8 hours behind. To your point, they're up and doing meetings at 5, 6 in the morning. Yeah. So I can meet them at 3 o'clock my time. Yeah. 7 o'clock their time. They've already done a couple of meetings by then. Yeah, and I'm still there for when my kids turn up at school, and this. That's important to me. I want to hang around with the kids.
Absolutely. And I look back on going back 10 or 12, 13 years ago, the Australian market was quite a booming market in my sectors. Yeah. And in my previous business, we used to do Australian hours 2 days a week. Yeah. We used to get in the office at 3 in the morning, 3:30. Yeah. And finish around lunchtime. But then you never used to finish around lunchtime because your UK business would get busy.
Yeah.
Mate, we were working like 15, 16-hour days, a couple of days a week minimum.
Yeah.
And that was quite challenging. I mean, I hadn't got kids. I was mid-20s and everything's a bit easier when you're in your mid-20s.
Yeah. But for me, I can work the US market on UK time, no problem, and manage that effectively. The good thing is if you've got a family and you want to hang out with your kids in the morning, take them to school, it's perfect.
Yeah.
Because, you can start work at 10 o'clock. I start work at 10 o'clock most days, 10:30.
Okay.
The other significant barrier or notable barrier is a really obvious one. It's a new market. It's a new territory. You've never done it before. You don't know anybody there. More importantly, they don't know you. Yeah. So it's a completely cold market when you go into it.
Okay. Which in fact leads me on to next sort of questions. What's that go-to-market strategy? So, if you're, the listeners are going to be thinking, right, how do I now take that? How do I take myself? How do I take my business to market? What would be your sort of top tips for that?
Okay, so I'm open to anybody challenging me on this and telling me there's a better way to start a new market, and I don't care whether it's the US, whether it's APAC, whatever, UK. It's candidate. You lead with your candidate, because I could quite easily ring up and cold call companies in the US or mail shot them or send them a message and say, hi, just entered the US market. I'm the best recruiter you're ever going to deal with. Got any jobs, mate? And there's just no substance there whatsoever. And I could be telling the truth. I'm not, but I'm sure there's many people much better than me. But, that I could give them a good service. But they've heard it all before.
Yeah.
So you've got to lead.
Well, they're probably hearing it multiple times a day as well.
Yeah. So for me, you've got to lead with something. You've got to show them some value that they can't get anywhere else.
Yeah.
And in my 20 plus years, no better way to do that than with a candidate you've got in your pocket that no other recruiter's dealing with. Yeah. And I don't think it's any more complicated than that. And the great thing is, what I found really refreshing early on in the US market is anybody will talk to you. Anybody will take your calls. I haven't cold called, just to be clear. I haven't done a single cold call, but my outreach to sending an in-mail to a candidate, and it's not complicated. I decided to go in senior. You like working as senior. So I thought I'm going to go in at VP level. And I'm going to build relationships with what I perceive to be the top percentile of VPs in my space.
Yeah.
And you make a judgment on that. You don't know till you've spoken to them, but you look at their profile. And for me, if they've, worked at a company for between 3 and 6 or 7 years or whatever, and had a few of those, and they've progressed at every one that they've been at, that's a good candidate for me in my market. Yeah. They've started, carrying the bag as a sales rep. They've gone up regional manager, sales director, VP, and then they want to get to chief commercial officer. If they're on that path and they're progressing, I'm just sending them an email and I'm just complimenting them on their profile. I personalize it. The numbers are really low. I don't do high volume, and they respond. I'm not going in with a job. I'm just saying.
We've talked about that, haven't we? And you were saying to me, like, people, you just drop them a really nice message and they respond. Whereas certainly in my business, I mean, I've been quite present in my market now in the UK for a sustained period of time. When I'm messaging people that don't know me, still don't come back to me. Yeah. My market responds when I drop a text to this person and say, can you connect me to this person?
Yeah. That's always the best way.
Whereas you've not got that in the US, especially for a lot of these listeners that are going to go into the new market. So I'm looking at that personally at the minute thinking, right, how do the way I work in the UK is not going to work in the US. But to hear that actually you can send out well-structured, well-intended outreach. Yeah. There's not a carpet bomb full of crap and generic stuff.
No. It's highly personalised.
It's highly personalised.
It's none of this, you've got a great profile crap and then nothing to back that up. It's like, right, I've seen you've working here. I've seen you've had... You've progressed 3 times in the last 4 years and you're working on this tech and that your career looks really good, and just actually justifying why you think it's a good profile. They respond. Who doesn't like a compliment?
Well, we've talked about this as well. I mean, I think your approach transcends multiple markets, not just the US, but that hyper personalization where I remember you sort of saying to me, I think we've been in the office in Birmingham one day and you'd worked one candidate.
Oh, this was recently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think you'd done
eight target companies.
Yeah, eight or nine target companies. Yeah. And it had taken you all day to research them.
Yeah.
To find out the target contact.
Yeah.
To shape a bespoke message. But actually, you've got 3 interviews.
I woke up the next morning, I had four. Yeah, 50% of them had shown an interest. And this wasn't chasing live jobs. This was just target companies. So you can build trust really quickly with these candidates. Meet them a couple of times, get to know them. I want candidates that are passive. I don't want candidates that are active.
Yeah.
I want candidates that are reasonably happy where they are, but they could be tempted away, and they tell you what that reason is. And before you know it, you're talking about putting a target company list together. Yeah. This is nothing new. I was going through all this stuff donkeys years ago with my team. I've trained everybody in my old company to get exclusive candidates. In fact, I don't get exclusive candidates. I just make sure they're not working with other recruiters. Yeah. I don't use that word exclusive. You don't need to. I just check that they're passive.
You don't get the future promise to recruit for
exclusive future promise to recruit. No, none of that business. Just you just trust. You look them in the eye, and they are trustworthy, and they're loyal. And then you're just taking them to market, and you're just introducing them to these companies, and you follow up. And we could get into some of that detail. Yeah. I don't think it's that to get that granular, but it's candidate led, and try and build a brand. I've been fortunate that I tripped over neuromodulation 5 years ago, and it's quite a small niche.
Yeah,
and I've built myself quite a reputation in that market now. I just talk about it on LinkedIn all the time.
Yeah, you've got a lot of content goes out.
Got a lot of content, but I'm seen to be a trusted voice now.
Yeah, well, you're a thought leader in that space. People come to you and CEOs ask your advice on
it's crazy. Yeah, it's nuts. And some of the stuff they're asking me, I'm like, what are you asking me that for? I'm like, but it's the perception that you create. I'm like,
but actually, I mean, beyond that, it's not perception. It's what you're talking about now.
Yeah,
because you've created that hub and that community. But in the UK, that very seldom happens. I'd just like to move on to, if there's any negatives or any pitfalls or anything, other things in a constructive sense you've got to think about. Because I know one example has got to be for me, and this just comes from having friends in the States that lived in the UK for a long time. That cultural difference, and yes, we do speak the same language, but I mean, they're a massive country. Surely East and West Coast got a different culture. Surely that then filters into business decision making. I don't know.
East and West cultures are different, but they're not as noticeable for us as being in the UK as they are if you were on the East Coast or West Coast. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah.
They really notice it.
Yeah.
I don't notice it that much.
Yeah. Probably a bit similar to like me and you would recognise the difference between being from Wolverhampton and Birmingham.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. So it's
but an American might not when they're listening into the UK.
100%. Yeah. So look, the way I see it is the cultural thing is great because they've just got a positive outlook on everything.
Yeah.
It's that American dream, right? They've been brought up by their parents to be told you can do whatever you want to do, son or daughter. Follow your dreams. We don't tend to bring our kids up. You and I will, and a lot of more modern parents. But historically, you've been told, right, get yourself a job in a factory. You're not going to be any better than that.
Get down the pit.
Yeah, and I think that has carried on. People kids get their dreams get crushed more over here. Yeah. Over there, they're like, chase your dreams, man, go for it. Yeah. So that follows them through into later life where they've just got this outlook on life. They're enthusiastic, they're positive. And I've heard from people that have moved there and lived there. In some maybe states that can grate on you a little bit after some time, but I just find them incredibly great.
And decision making and culture in business, how's that?
Straight talking, quick decision making. Look, again, I'm talking about startups here. Yeah. They make quick decisions. They'll pivot on those decisions quickly. Okay. They're malleable. You can influence them because they respect you as a skilled recruiter. You can change their opinion on a spec or a process as long as you can justify it. Look, you've got to back yourself up. If you're saying you're great, you don't need to say you're great, but the way you talk to somebody, they'll judge if you're good or not. But you've got to back up what you're saying with a service, obviously. Look, it's still recruitment. It's tough.
So I mean, in terms of the US networking side and how they do business, I remember you telling me about how, in the US, they're much more open to new contact from new people.
Yeah.
But if you're not careful and you don't stay on top of that network, that door closes behind you really quickly. Yeah. Just tell us about the difference between the two markets.
It's a good point, right? Because that's how you can get in quite easily. Because they'll see it as a new contact. They'll check you out. They go, okay, that person looks relevant to me. I'll have a conversation with them.
Yeah.
So you can't give them any bullshit. They're very straight talking, and they are really into their networking, so much more than we are over here.
Yeah.
So that's how you can get in there. But then you've just got to back that up. And you know, if you're saying you're going to do something, you've got to do it. You've got to ask them to put their trust in you, and they will do. And you know, a funny thing is, they love working with UK recruiters as well. I don't know why. They just see it as a bit of a novelty, even though it's not. But yeah, the doors can close quite quickly if you're not on your game and you don't deliver what you're saying you're going to deliver. They'll quickly move on to somebody else in a network. But what I would say is, once you've delivered something that either meets or exceeds their expectations, their loyalty to you will be immediate.
Okay, yeah.
And they're really proactive in wanting to kind of recommend you to other people as well and refer you. I went to a conference in London a couple of weeks ago, and I met a client of mine I've done a load of stuff with. I've done a load of free stuff because they're on a funding round, so I've kind of helped them out when money's been a little bit tight. And actually, I was telling him, the market conditions were a bit tough. And it only took for me to say that, and he's offering his network to me. He's going, I can introduce you to this CEO, this CEO, this CEO. I wasn't even asking him. And then, within 24 hours, and this is a CEO of a startup, busy person that wants to help me out and go out of his way to kind of extend me to their network. That's very different for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds it. And as I say, it's more challenging for the listener to appreciate. But knowing you and having watched how your business has grown, it's very real, and it is more. I mean, I get referrals. I still get people in the UK helping me out. But it's not the frequency.
Yeah.
At what you get it.
Yeah.
And also the people that are recommending me are people that have known me multi-years.
Yeah.
And I'm talking 5, 8, 10 years.
Yeah, so you've worked hard
very
on that
rare in
relationship.
the UK. I'm getting referrals from someone I've done one deal with or two deals, whereas you seem to deliver that service and just their whole outlook on business is a much more commercial manner. And they're like, oh, well, I'll help you. And I noticed that.
Yeah.
So before we sort of bring the episode to a close, I think we've talked about there is a bit of formality needed in order for a UK business to work in the US. I think you were saying there's a form or something.
Yeah, really straightforward.
Okay.
This is the only thing you need. You don't need any entity in the US.
Do you need a US bank account?
Don't need a US bank account, no.
Okay.
Well, like all of these modern ones, Starling, Monzo, and Revolut, they've all got, you can just set up like Euro accounts and US dollar accounts. And I found my clients, they just ask what currency I want to be paid in. More often than not, it's pretty straightforward. But you're going to need a W8 form, and specifically it's a W8-BEN form. And you can just Google that. And it's a form that you can download. It's free. You don't have to pay for it.
Yeah.
And it's a form that you complete. And it looks pretty complicated. It's one page.
Is it heavy, is it?
No, but then you can just go onto YouTube and like how to fill in the W8 form. And you've got
like tutorial.
There's somebody talks you through, and it's easy.
Maybe you could do one, mate, little.
Maybe 80-20. So you keep that file on your records. You don't need to like file it anywhere. You just keep it on your computer. And every now and again, when you do make a placement, or when you're approaching a placement, a client might ask you, right, have you got a W8 form?
Okay.
Or are you bound by US tax law or UK tax law?
Yeah, so it's a tax reason.
It's a form for the IRS that basically just they will keep it in case they get asked by the IRS. It
ring fences that fee from state tax or something like that.
It just proves that you're a UK entity as a business, and therefore you're bound by UK tax law, because otherwise, and I've heard this happen, part of the fee will get withheld because they'll believe that you need to pay US taxes. And I've never had that, fortunately, because that'd sting a little bit, I think. That's it. I've been asked for it maybe 2-3 times in 5 years.
Yeah. Okay.
But because I'm working with startups, if you're working with medium or bigger size companies, I'd say it's standard that they would ask you for that. But apart from that, it's all good. So yeah, look, for me, it's a no-brainer. And look, I'm not going to suggest to anybody listening to this that you just literally throw your market away, your current market that you've
send a couple of emails.
Yeah, you're billing 200 grand in the UK, and you're thinking, right, I want to bill $500,000 in the US. I'm going to completely disregard that and I'm not going to advocate that. If for whatever reason you do have to start a new market, it's a no-brainer. I'll just suggest that to anybody. But anybody looking to make the transition, obviously, you've got to give it some thought, haven't you? And maybe maybe you maintain your current market whilst working a bit of a mini project in the US. Maybe you do a day a week or something to begin with. But But and you'll find out for yourself. People have to find out for themselves. Don't just listen to this and throw everything away and point yourself at the US market. Try it.
Yeah,
because it won't be for everybody. The culture won't be for everybody. Yeah. The time difference won't be for everybody. But all of those reasons that I've given you there is why somebody should consider that they're real.
Yeah,
there's no bullshit there. It's those are real reasons.
Well, I've watched you have a successful business for 5 years in that market. So yeah,
come and join me, mate.
Well,
we'll take over the US.
Yeah, that's it, mate. Yeah,
conquer the US,
breaking America.
Yeah.
Well, look, I think it's been a fascinating discussion today. I mean, just before we sum it up, what would be the key takeaways for the listeners today on the US market, just to round that up?
I'd say that if you are considering the US market, for whatever reason for you, it can be an incredibly lucrative market for you, but it's still recruitment. Don't expect all of the great things I've said. If people are hearing that for the first time, they might be thinking, shit, man, that's too good to be true. Yeah. It's kind of not too good to be true. All of that is real. But if you're expecting to just lift your activity now and put it into the US,
it on a bed of roses
and have a fundamental change in your productivity, it's not going to happen overnight. And you still have problems. You still have, touch wood. We talked about this the other day. I haven't dropped an offer yet in 5 years, but I've had searches pulled. I've had stuff happen that
promises made, and
it doesn't happen.
So it's still a very real recruitment market.
It's recruitment. You're dealing with humans. You're dealing with two human entities. You've got a client and a candidate. That they're emotional beings. Stuff's going to go wrong. It's like it's recruitment. So if you're looking for a quick fix, it's not going to give you that. But if you want to build something sustainable long term, it's a really enjoyable market, and the people that you deal with are great. Then you should consider it.
Good. Well, look, I'm sure any of the listeners, they can drop us a message and
for sure
them with any questions. But hopefully that's been a really powerful episode for people that are considering that new market.
Yeah, I feel like I've been an interviewee on your show here.
Like Parkinson
show, like your pod.
Tonight with Trevor McDonald.
See you on the next one, mate.
Yeah, cheers, mate. Well done. Cheers.
Thanks for listening to the Recruitment Founders Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on your favourite podcast platform or YouTube so you never miss an episode. Connect with us on LinkedIn to join our community of founders and mentors, or visit our website to learn more about how we can help you launch, grow, and thrive in your recruitment business.